Yo, what is good? Happy Tuesday. Oh man, this is the beginning of the new schedule for the show. Adam, how are you feeling? I mean, we're going strong with all 7 of us in here. Congrats to everyone who has made it. We're going to have to, work some of the kinks out as we've discussed and as we've done over the last, has it been 8 months now that we've been doing this?
Man, I'm feeling like I've been beat up because last night, I don't know if you saw that Jet game, man, to see your quarterback go down in the first drive of the season to an Achilles tear, basically ruined my entire football season. So other than that, I'm doing fantastic.
I thought you were a Bills fan. No,
oh hell no. You just heard New York, and
what part of New York are you from? I thought you were from Buffalo for some reason.
I'm from Connecticut. So grew up Jet fan. My family's had season tickets for 50 years, bro. 50 years of pain and suffering. And this was going to be the year. And literally Aaron Rodgers didn't complete a pass. It's almost impossible to express the pain and frustration. It's literally down bad, bro. Jets are down bad.
Yeah, I saw this morning in your new newsletter report, which I highly advise everyone to, put notifications on for Adam so you can see every morning some of the news. You threw in some Aaron Rodgers stuff in there. I was like, man, are we down that bad that we got to start throwing in tangentially degen related news? Which is,
bro, I'm messing with the algorithm at this point, man. It's just how can I just mix it up, see what works, what doesn't work, man. You just throw this stuff against the wall. Look, crypto is pretty much dead right now, and so stretching our wings a little bit right now into other aspects of crypto Twitter isn't the worst idea, in my view.
Sunny Orbit says, good preparation for your crypto journey. Absolutely.
Literally, I said my favorite tweet was one of the guys I follow pretty closely was like, growing up a Jet fan has prepared me for the bear markets. It's literally, you get really good at suffering, man. Really, really good at suffering. Yeah.
Down astronomically. Yeah, it's funny. During bear markets, you really see what other people are interested in based off of, what they try to throw out there. A lot of people try to throw out food picks, which doesn't really work on Twitter. They start throwing out, casino picks, gambling. I've actually started to do it a little bit, and this is also kind of gambling related. If you don't know, I'm from born and raised in Las Vegas. MGM is under hacker attack. Did you see me post about that?
It's crazy. I couldn't. It's like I would imagine. Oh, this is probably pretty normal, but yeah, what catches up on it, man? What is it?
So the entire MGM runs 80% of the properties in Las Vegas. It's
80%. Wow.
80%. They've literally just taken over everything. And some hacker group came in. They shut down the entire gambling system. So all of the slot machines were off. All the video poker machines were off. Guests couldn't even get into their rooms.
Oh, wow.
The locks to the rooms were off. And apparently they were being held ransom by this hacker group. And there's reports that Caesars Entertainment had the same hacker group come in a few months ago, and they paid the ransom $30 million.
Only 30?
Right? That's small time in crypto.
That seems like that's what was reported. They might have had to tack on another zero.
I was like, is it the Lazarus group? I mean, they just went in and just hacked, stake.com, which is the largest offshore casino. So maybe they're just like making the rounds and they're like, we're just going to come after every single casino that there is. The fact that
you figure like those casino, yeah, like you said, everything's electronic now. Everything, right, from the doors to the slots to everything. Boy, what an absolute disaster, man.
Good show. Yeah, they said the FBI, the CIA, and pretty much every three-letter government organization was on it immediately. So it's back up now, but apparently there's still a lot of issues that are happening.
It's back up because they paid it, basically.
Probably.
although like we didn't pay it, it's like, yeah, you did. We know you did. Yeah. It's funny. My brother, who I think I've told you has a like an options data site, they got a denial of service attack. But the hackers were like, you need to send 5 Bitcoin. This was a few years ago when Bitcoin wasn't what it is now, but even still, it was going to be like 30 grand. It was like, send 5 Bitcoin to this address. You have until next Monday. That was their mistake. I was like, next Monday, dude. I mean, my brother's site, it was down, right? I would have been like, you have 5 hours, right, to send this. Instead, the hackers were like, you have like whatever, 5 days. And by that time, my brother was able to spin up the whatever else to, work around it and get it all fixed and not have to pay it. But it was like, wow, sometimes these hackers, we give them a lot of credit. But at that point in time, I was like, they're not very good salesmen because they weren't able to get that sense of urgency going. I missed out probably on 30 grand from my brother. But anyway, yes, hacking is a thing, man.
They have to, you have to strike that sense of urgency. The crypto industry, the hackers of the crypto industry definitely got this down pat.
Oh man,
so much that Vitalik, they even got Vitalik.
Crazy.
When was that, on Friday?
Crazy. Yeah, it was on Friday.
From what I was reading, he actually didn't have, from what he claims, right? This is unconfirmed. He didn't have the text SMS enabled, but apparently when you sign up for Twitter Premium, or I think it's called X Premium now, it logs your phone number in. And actually from your post, I went in and deleted
Me too, dude.
From it, because if they can do that, even from a non-SMS, which I don't know if that's true or not, but you got to be safe, dude. Definitely.
That I had no idea about until somebody, and that's why I retweeted and made that little post yesterday, because and guys, check that right now. Go into your settings and check. But yeah, when you sign up for Blue, they take your phone number. They don't tell you. And I had like, mine's all two-factor authentication, hard key, and all that sort of stuff. So I've done that. We know Leo got hacked. All these people got hacked that, we are well aware, but I didn't realize the phone number even being on Twitter, just as like the super backup, they'll still send you the SMS reset, which I did know about. Guys, if you are on your Gmail, it's the same thing on Gmail. Even if you have two-factor authentication set up on Gmail, you have to go into Gmail, search, and Google all Google products, search for your phone number in the settings. If the phone number's in there, delete it, because somebody will be able to convince that Google employee to send the reset to your SMS. And it's that's how one guy got hacked for like $40 million in crypto. They hacked his Gmail. Gmail allowed him to get into Coinbase, $40 million drain. Like, guys, yeah, hardcore.
There's got to be a class action lawsuit
Oh
coming
my God.
at some point, unfortunately, for all of these companies. I don't know whether you sue the phone companies, whether it's T-Mobile, AT&T, telecoms, or if you go after the Gmail and all these other ones. But it is a sight to see. Also, if you're in the room, first, shout out to you. You are absolutely amazing. Make sure that you go to the pinned post. Make sure that you retweet that so everybody else can hear our lovely conversation. And if anybody here wants to join the stage, if you hear any type of interesting conversation, feel free to come up on stage. We have this open format where we're going now 3 days a week: Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, 11:30 a.m. Eastern time, probably to 1 p.m. Eastern. It'll be a lot of fun. Mostly news, headlines, trends, but we're going to be diving into everything else. I think what's a smart idea now, maybe I'll give a little bit of an Emblem update, and then on Thursday we'll close out with some progress. So Emblem, right? That's where Adam and I are employed at. We successfully migrated the Age of Rust, and we're in the process of fake rares. Man, there is an absolute insane amount of interest in fake rares right now. So much that they're actually trying to onboard people right now. Did you see that?
Bro, it's so amazing, man. They got to him. They got to him. People's like, I guess I need to go down the fake rare rabbit hole. So yeah, they got him.
Yeah, if they get Beeple, dude, it's going to just astronomically send fake rares into orbit. So here I posted. So I think it was Bats. So Bats who is he does geometric pepes, modern memeism. It's pretty cool art. Highly recommend it. On the stream here, I've pulled up. He put, "Hey Beeple, when fake rare." And then Beeple replied and said, "TBH, do not know a ton about fake rares. Is there a starter course for the noobs?" This has 32,000 views. And so then I went under it and said, "OpenSea trading coming this week," which also has almost 10,000 views now at this point. That's unfortunately a reply is one of my best performing tweets. That's how astronomical.
Reply guy now, baby.
That's what you got to do in these kind of times. But if you click onto the collection, and I'm pulling here so you can view, you see two different cards. There's Pepe Billions, which is actually the one that was created by Shannon, the founder of Emblem Vault for it was series 2, so very early. And then Mullet Party, which is Bunsy's fake rare, which he's not here. So I've successfully tested the minting process of it. And now we're finalizing one more process of it. And I've learned a lot just being around the back end of this. What the curated collection does, and Shannon explained this to me. What we're doing with this 1155 curated collection is serializing ERC 1155, which from my understanding has never been done before. And it is quite tough to do. Right? I mean, when you think about like baseball cards, that's essentially what serializing is. When you see at the bottom where it says like 1 out of 300.
Yep.
That's what we're doing with these 1155s, right? So if you use Rare Pepe, for example, I'll use that because it's static. There's 1,774 different cards, and each one has a varying amount of supply. So you think like for the Nakamoto card, there's 300, which is the first one. it would be 1, and then you basically have to go like 1 1 1 1 1 2 1 3 1 4 1 5 all the way through, and then for the next card, which is I think the shitcoin, or no, Gox card is number 2, 1500 supply. Then you have to do 1 1 1 2 all the way to 1 1500. And then this whole system has to then integrate into X-Chain as well, and also perform some other kind of magic on the back end. Shannon says, and I'm not a dev, but he says serializing ERC 1155 deserves its own kind of white paper within itself. So maybe this will go down in history as setting the path for multi.
Well, I know people have been talking about doing it for a while, because there is, people think there'll be, it's just a cool way to collect the different cards, but often thought of as almost impossible. I mean, we were talking about this with curios back in like 21. Like, is there a way to figure out which was the first curio, right? Which was the actual first of the Apple card, the first. Is there a way to figure this out, right? So yeah, it's obviously a huge technical challenge to try and figure this out.
Yeah, provenance is quite tough to understand, and so much, dude, that this debate and conversation that we've had in the historical NFT community for 2 years is back again. It's back again.
It's bear market when we only hear this conversation like once every 3 months or so.
It's really, I tweeted out and I said that I'll know the historical NFT community is dead when I don't see an argument about Namecoin NFT provenance in a 3-month time span. So if you guys didn't see this, Sotheby's actually is auctioning off a Twitter egg from Namecoin. 2014 is when it was first registered, vaulted by Emblem Vault. And I believe the sale has actually concluded.
It went through. Yeah, the guy, I gave him a congrats earlier this morning.
Do you know what the final closing price was? They had it in Hong Kong dollars.
Go up to the top, and there should be.
Yeah, I think looks like they may have closed it down. It was at 15,000 HKD, which I think was like around $1,500. I don't know. But that was with like 12 hours to go. And as you know how bidding works, it's always
the end. Yep.
It's the last, hour or 2 hours where it'll like triple out of nowhere. But I mean, the all-time high value or all-time high sale of a Twitter egg is 80 ETH. That was when ETH was like $3,000 at the time.
Yep.
So if you're getting it now around $2,000, right, you're getting it like 99% off essentially.
Yep.
It's hell of a deal if you believe this. But
yeah, I just pinned up top the guy who won it. Claimed to have won it on Twitter.
Yeah, so Sotheby's comes in, right, and we'll probably stay on this topic here for a second because I do find it quite interesting, although we've had this debate conversation literally 4,000 times. So what is a Twitter egg? What is Namecoin? Well, first, Namecoin is the first altcoin. It was forked from Bitcoin from Satoshi Nakamoto, Gavin Andreessen, and a handful of these other people themselves. Satoshi is actually the person who recommended forking Bitcoin to create, a decentralized domain service. Turns out with this decentralized domain registration blockchain, you can store some sort of arbitrary data inside of it. So around 2014, the Stacks co-founder Munib created a company called OneName, which allowed you to basically register your name or your Twitter profile pictures into the blockchain itself, which is like a URL link. And these became really some of the first, or if not the first, images to ever be recorded on a blockchain themselves. So the issue then stands with some people when it comes to the historical NFT side is that the tokens, the UTXO model, these tokens expire every 8 months. And so if you are a collector of token provenance, right, if UTXO expires, then technically the provenance expires, at least from that perspective. The issue that really is probably the largest, divide in the sand between the historical NFT communities is, do you value Namecoin as the original kind of blockchain that had stored images? I guess there's like some early counterparty ones with JP Jansen as well. Or do you value the token as the provenance, or do you value the name registry, right? So when you go on to like NameBrow, and you could go on to d/Jake, and I'll pull that up here on the video in a second. You'll see that it shows the first registration itself. And so some collectors are collecting the domain and the first registration. And this is a similar, and this is the same kind of collecting that happens on ENS for early ENS registrations too from 2017. Or are you collecting the UTXO for the provenance? And this is where the main divide happens. And I think the biggest argument of why some of the disagreement is that, you know, it's selling at Sotheby's, and this is really like a social validation, right? It's that Sotheby's and Christie's have been determining provenance, or at least validating provenance, for centuries now at this point. And so now that the sale is concluded, right, I guess you're just basically calling, you know, if you don't agree with it and you think that Namecoin's a scam or whatever the token provenance is, then basically you're disagreeing with Sotheby's, you know, determination of provenance and of centuries of experience. And so I guess it leaves it there. It did sell. So I guess it's a win in the name of early Namecoin assets.
Yep. We've been down the road. It is what it is. I get both sides of the argument. But there is no denying, zero denying, that Namecoin and those first assets were absolutely a critical step to getting to the modern NFT, period, full stop. I mean, nobody, even the hardest of hardcore Namecoin haters, can ignore that or talk against that. So it is what it is. You know, I like Namecoin. I recognize there are provenance issues, but, you know, almost everything has provenance issues. So, you know, we are still moving forward. We are not at the end stages yet. We are not at the end game of NFTs. So, but Namecoin's super cool. And yeah, good to see it. I don't know who organized it. It would be cool to have whoever set that up at Sotheby's on to maybe we could talk to them about it. It'd be pretty cool.
Yeah, we'd probably reach out to the egg community. The one thing that I find interesting is, you know, there's so many different ways you could look at provenance, and people collect a variety of provenance, even in just the crypto space specifically, right? The first music NFT, or, you know, the debate of the first on-chain NFT, right? How the Mooncat community debates with the CryptoPunks community, which is the early generative, right? Which debates with the early provenance of AI stuff, right?
Oh my God, the provenance of punks, V1s, V2s. I mean, dude, it's endless, right? Well, it's so interesting that the artists who thought, oh, this is going to be a great blockchain's this amazing way to solve provenance, just opened a can of worms, and it's like, it is and it isn't, right? It is and it isn't. It's complicated. That's for darn sure.
Yeah, I actually wrote two different provenance. I wrote two different provenance articles. You could go to my Medium page. One's called The Transition of Provenance. One's The Flow of Capital of Provenance, and discusses how provenance has kind of changed throughout society. And then the other one talks about where collectors in the historical community are deciding to store value based off of the different types of provenance. And generative art's definitely kind of the leader right now when it comes to it. Some of the earliest assets of each category aren't getting as much love as you would think. It's generally the one that has some sort of historical significance, and then the cultural significance kind of is like the real big layer, or the amplifier. We still do need time to be determined to see kind of what happens, right? Me, you, Leo, Leonidas, we all went in with the theory or the idea, you know, we're gonna have to hold these things for 5 to 10 years to really see how if the thesis is right or not. So yeah.
I mean, you think about it now, like even whatever the one, I don't know, Chromie squiggles, right? Oh my God, the squiggles. You know, it's still early in the squiggles. I'm not, you know, you can anoint it. And obviously people have spent, you know, hundreds of thousands of dollars on these things. So it's kind of easy to anoint it. But, you know, time is really not any of these assets. Time is really not kind of played around with them, you know, so much. And certainly, I mean, I guess Punks, Pepe's, okay, those have been through a couple cycles now, but even still, it's still early days. And to think that, you know, collectors, even like the high end, you know, 6529 type collectors, that they're going to dictate the rest of this market over the next 10 years. It's just, I don't find that to be true. I think some things, yes, obviously, and money, you know, does move and create markets, but I think there's lots of opportunity for other things that may win over time.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. When you look at punks and Pepe's, those are really the only two communities in the historical community that survived both the bear markets, and then that's the cultural layer. Those two communities, the Pepe community and punk community, they stayed intact, right? There's the story about how the punks community didn't hit over 1,000 people in the Discord till like February of 2021, like right before it blew up, right? It was just like a handful of guys. And I had on Sold the Bottom, I forget what his name is, the V1 punk guy.
Yeah, Hemba.
Hemba, yeah, he told me how there'd be days where there was just no responses in the punk Discord.
Totally. So, dude, I think Russ is in the audience right here. Russ had a tweet the other day. I'll probably pin it up top, where it was like, I think it was Hemba and somebody else had bought like all the autoglyphs. Maybe it was Hemba and like Pranksy, right? And they had like, Hemba's like, we own 51% of the market, don't sell yet. And it's like, you just realize what it is. It's like these two dudes and Matt and John owned basically like 80% of all the autoglyphs, right? And it's like, how can we pump this to get like 5 ETH out of people, And you just realize this super tiny market of basically two people who completely manipulated and controlled the market for years, right? And so, yeah, now we all kind of assume, oh, well, autoglyphs, of course, it's the grail. It's a grail asset. And it's like, well, it could be, but let's also understand what it is, which is like a handful of guys basically controlled this market for 5 years, and still pretty much control the market. And so, where it plays out over a decade, I'm just saying, like, let's not just assume this is all kind of set in stone.
Yeah, provenance is hard. Trading is hard. What is hard and what is super interesting that happened, and I want to talk about this for a second. Danny and On-Chain Monkeys announced that they are going to be spending $1 million to move their collection of 9,500 On-Chain Monkeys on Ethereum to Bitcoin, to ordinals. I listened to this space yesterday. They didn't discuss the details behind how it's going to work. But first, $1 million is quite insane. And the fact that they're moving from a red ocean of, ETH NFTs, where he's battling, 7 years of NFT provenance, like we're talking about. And also you're competing against punks and apes and Azukis. Or you move over to Bitcoin and you compete with OMB, Bitcoin DeGods, and Bitcoin Frogs. To me, it seems like a no-brainer, especially because Danny's just been so far ahead of this. He's probably going to link it all to he's going to use parent-child inscriptions probably to, link it to the early provenance. But quite interesting. But Bunzi, what do you think of this, man? And also GM to you.
Yo, no, GM ran some errands this morning, but there's a lot to unpack here with provenance and some of these collections and all of this stuff. I think the thesis that you guys have is like the 10-year of these historical NFTs allowing themselves to become historical and no more speculation. And like the cool thing about blockchain is it doesn't lie. And like what I mean by that is,
it might not lie, but it fibs, bro. It fibs.
Yeah. What I mean by that is like for collections that did the right thing, they'll age well. For collections that were like involved in wash trading and fuckery, it's just a matter of time before people unpack that and point the finger at wallets and, really just crush people that were doing the wrong thing to get inflated numbers on OpenSea and doing, things that people do to push these quote unquote collections. So I think people that truly innovated first will be rewarded in 10 years from now. And people that did it the right way will be rewarded. But people forget, it's strange to me that people choose this type of technology to try to fuck around with and do, what we're trying to avoid from the traditional finance system. And yeah, I think that I'm just going to keep it as simple as that because, crypto punks, I think the V1 punks are going to I don't know, flip, but that's just one collection that I just can't understand why the V1 punks aren't worth more than the V2. It doesn't really make sense from a collector standpoint, and these things have no utility outside collecting them and being early to crypto. That's like their claim to fame is like, if you own a CryptoPunk, it shows you're an OG. You've been around the block, you know what you're doing. But somehow the V2 is a little bit later and they fixed a bug or whatever. But I don't know. The V1 punks are still probably the most goated collection in my opinion. But yeah, I
would push back a little. I agree with you in spirit about people finding out and then the truth coming out and then bad actors or whatever being punished. But in my experience, like just the easiest example is CryptoPunks itself, right? Those guys literally lied from 2018 to 2021. The voices got so loud that they finally had to change their narrative as being the first NFT ever. But they knew darn well in 2018. We have them on video.
Yeah, there's proof. There's
literal proof of Matt being called out at a conference saying he wasn't the first. And that narrative bled into the culture. I know for a fact that Gary Vee and a whole swath of other people bought CryptoPunk specifically thinking they were the first NFT ever. That
kind of proves my point, though, is like time.
But by then it doesn't matter. They'd already established themselves as the GOAT. Like it didn't matter.
But then you're just opening up like, dude, you can be a fucking monthly GOAT like Azuki. They're doing serious numbers, but that collection's not going to age well. Like we're talking 10 years from now. So like you can talk it in a month span, a few month span, but collections that, and it maybe not be the CryptoPunk V2s. It may be, if they're claiming that they're V1, but again, it's social consensus of like how they did it. And I do think they may not be the first, but they were definitely like quite innovative and maybe I don't know, whatever they did, it was definitely impactful to still hold value without being the first. And I think collections like that, but then it's interesting because then you just have the craziest part about these pieces of art is once people have financial ties to them, people just will lie to themselves. They'll do crazy shit to like fucking
Veblen goods, dude. Veblen goods.
Yep.
Yeah. So I mean, it's an interesting topic. There's no right answer, but I think one interesting thing, and even Ryder Rips went to the extent of saying the reason he sold the RRBAYC was to when people are financially involved, they get way more invested in the narrative. I found that interesting. I'm not saying I agree or disagree.
Oh, it's totally true. Yeah. I mean, all you got to do is look at yourself, right? You buy something and it's great. If you missed out on it, it's garbage, right? I mean, we all do that.
Yeah. So there's so many variables that play into NFT collecting or NFTs, and that, I mean, gets us to where we are, right? Like, it's super small market cap, like super small. They're just shit coins with photos. Like, that's all it is. Like, and we see how powerful shit coins are, and how much they move markets. So I don't know. I think non-fungible tokens definitely got brought up the wrong way. Hopefully that we can like use them in a different way. But yeah, I don't know. That's kind of my thought on it.
Russ Frankie, what you thinking, man?
Well, no, my introduction into the NFT space was like utility first, because like I joined for this game called Crypto Space Commanders, which died out. There's a long story there, but the game was essentially allowing you to own spaceships and beyond that, build towards like owning a space station where you get like a revenue share of people utilizing your space station to refine ore and materials you found out in space. And you wanted a good ship because, you know, you wanted to be able to go further out where it was more dangerous and collect the loot. But that was like a fully packaged idea that utilized NFTs in the early days. And then for PFPs to come around and dominate really kind of blew my mind. It was almost like we were going backwards, but at the same time, it was something that was palatable enough for, you know, simple minds to really understand. And those who couldn't really understand, like you couldn't wrap your head around the true utility and depth and like everything that NFTs could offer. This was just the first stage. And so maybe it was the wider audience could understand this quicker and better than they could like the deeper and richer use cases that I had kind of stumbled upon and fell in love with.
Yep. The what was I thinking of? Oh, Alien Worlds did something kind of expanded on that idea that you were just talking about, and now are like each planet's a DAO and they're running it that way. So it's still, you know, this is still the dream of use cases of NFT in games. But speaking of DAOs, do you want to talk about the Nouns DAO?
Oh yeah. So Nouns DAO, it's interesting. I don't know if I have the link. Do you want to go ahead and explain it? I think you've been reporting on it.
Sure.
I have some thoughts on it, but I'll let you explain the story.
Yeah, I guess what was happening, right? So if you guys aren't familiar with Nouns, when they started, basically they drop one basically PFP of a noun every day, and those are on auction every day, right? And they have to sell. And these things were like 100 ETH, 80 ETH, you know, in the bull run. Crazy expensive. But of course, every day you're dropping one of these things, they start dropping in price, and people started picking them up for like 18, 20 ETH over the last couple months. And each noun has the exact same voting rights as every other noun. And this DAO, in theory, was supposed to, you know, fund Web3 native projects, right? Or good projects or whatever. But of course, anytime you have any sort of organizational bureaucracy like this, trying to fund projects, dude, the waste. I mean, I heard some stories of waste, you know, guys earning 20 ETH and just doing nothing, really, just pocketing the money and walking away. And so people got pissed being in the DAO where the money's literally just flowing out to nothing. And a good number of people in the DAO voted to basically claw back the money, basically turn in your PFP, your NFT, and get ETH in exchange. And so what happened was, because you had so many of these people voting over the last, you know, year who've got their, you know, who bought their noun for 20 ETH, when they did the math, they're like, oh shoot, I can get 36 ETH out, basically. And they caused the DAO to basically have this event where, I mean, it looks like the community is almost going to be dissolved, where most of the people are taking their money out of the DAO. So very interesting as far as DAO functioning. I mean, we've been a part of multiple DAOs. They barely work at all. I mean, DAOs, in my opinion, just not really. They don't really work. But this is just another one kind of bites the dust. You know, when people looked at how much money was in there, they were like, what are we doing?
$50 million. $50 million was in that treasury, and it was never really used for anything outside of, I think, the Budweiser or the Bud Light Nouns commercial during the Super Bowl. It's like the only thing of relevance that I can remember that they used it for.
Yep.
When I know a big issue of contention as well was that one of every 10 nouns was sent to the Nounders, which is a multi-sig wallet of the creators, Punk4156, which is his Twitter handle, which he doesn't even own that Punk anymore, but that's still his identity. That's kind of a different, interesting topic. But people were tired of the founders getting paid and nothing really being done, right? If you're auctioning off one noun every day, and during the bear market or during the bull market, it was getting up to, 100 ETH people were paying.
Crazy.
And now it's down to around 20. Right. So if this team is getting,
to get a noun imagine getting 20 ETH every 10 days. Get out of here, bro.
And so from what it looks like, they're going to fork, and I think they're forking they're going to fork away from the Nounders payment from the founder himself. But I think it's like over 300 individuals of, I think there's like 800 nouns that exist already, are saying they want their money out, right? So if you have about 40% of the people, all right, here, 39.7%, they want out. So, it's, I don't know what you're going to do after at that point. I mean, people are going to get paid. And also, I know another point of issue as well was that right now, if you decide that you want your money out, I think you get paid like 37 ETH. But there's a bunch of people paying that were buying them on auction for 20 ETH, right? So they're gonna make like a nice profit. And those who paid 80 ETH during the bull market, they're saying that the supply is getting diluted, so therefore, the nouns will never actually reach that all-time high that they were. So there's just a lot of internal contention and issues, and this is just kind of what happens within DAOs themselves, and that it ultimately ends up with one or two individuals or maybe a group within the DAO ends up doing all of the work. Totally. And of course, I don't know if you've ever been on a group project when you're in high school,
God, dude.
or in college, where it's always one or two people of the group ends up doing everything, and then you have this few people who do nothing and still get the A. And
totally, dude. Totally. Somebody had what sounded like a good idea, which was like, hey, let's do an X DAO, right? Where we're like all social media people, we're all on here making social media content. Let's get together of like 10 or 20 of us and do a DAO, and we'll all create content. And I was like, I am so far out, dude. Into that, because I know what's going to happen is basically one or two people are going to do all the work, and no, thank you. That's human nature, man. It's the tragedy of the commons, and there's no way to get around that. And I'm surprised that DAO. I mean, we're waking up to it. There may be some use cases of DAOs, but the in my experience, they're a dud, total dud.
Absolute dud. Rusty, you have something to say?
I mean, I disagree. I just think DAO's the wrong.
Russ still believes, man. He still believes.
Russ, have you participated in a DAO? Are you in any DAOs?
No, that's the thing. They haven't really piqued my interest enough to really, really want to participate. But I have researched, and I sent you a message of a little bit of my research and breakdown of the different types of DAOs and what I believe would ultimately work, and how it would work. And not that message, but it's just a breakdown of kind of like how I believe that each one of them are doing it wrong. So, I mean, I don't want to go through all of them and take the space there, but yeah, it's a passion point for me. So if you guys have that on your docket to go over, I'll go.
No, I'm not going over any. I just want to see one that works, man. Show me. It
hasn't been made yet. That's all I'm saying. It hasn't been made. I think there's a formula. I'm going to go out on a limb and think or say that I may have nailed it, but I haven't had the time to build it yet. So.
we look forward to watching you build, brother.
Maybe in 10 years, but yeah, we'll see.
Yeah, no kidding. Circling back a little bit though, Adam, I wanted to hear your opinion on On-Chain Monkey's migration to ordinals. You've been pretty close with Danny. You're a holder of their what's it called, the Genesis monkeys on Bitcoin.
Bitcoin, yep.
First, like, good move, and then also, where are they pulling this $1 million out of?
Well, they're VC funded,
Yeah, but like, what is costing $1 million?
Well, I think it's like, I honestly, I think that's just if you hold like their Genesis, if you hold, I think it's 2 of their monkeys or whatever, they're basically picking up the cost. So any of the gas fees and stuff like that, they're picking up that cost. I think that was just more to make headlines than it's the actual what it's going to cost. I think it's going to be a fraction of that. I mean, from our experience, they're only going to get a small portion of people who actually like do the thing. You and I probably don't believe that it's the greatest provenance either, that it kind of does like break the provenance of the pieces. We can argue about that. And there are a lot of Bitcoiners who are, no, it's burned and the hash of the other, that is in and that. And it's like, anytime you jump chains like this, there's a break in provenance. That's my view. But I think your breakdown of the strategic aspect of it from a project perspective, meaning On-Chain Monkey can now compete on Bitcoin and basically be
the top dog,
not the project, certainly in the top 3, I'd say with OCM and maybe, D-Gods right there at the top and battle for that position and very likely take over that top position. He's making a wager on Bitcoin, which I think is a smart wager. Danny's a super smart guy. So I think it's smart from that perspective. I would argue, and we'd argue about the provenance of it, but I think he's willing to sacrifice that for being the kind of leader on Bitcoin.
Yeah, there's a few metrics that I'm going to be looking at. First is what are the technical details? Is he going to do a teleburn? Is this going to be a Danny teleburn where he creates his own teleburn, or is he going to use Casey's teleburn method?
No, I think they're using their own.
That's what I said. Assuming Danny has been ahead of everything pretty much, he's probably creating some sort of his own thing. I don't know if he's going to try to protect the provenance of the token or not. The only other, I guess, of recent memory situation like this is when D-Gods and Utes moved from Sol to Polygon and then to Ethereum. Yep. They used something called, I think it was Wormhole, where they claim it's a one-way bridge, but it still protects the token. They say the token on the other side still exists. It just becomes immovable, and then they create a new one. So I don't know. I mean, if the token,
that's very similar to what Danny's plan is that it's a one-way. It's no backsies, and I think it's basically going to go into a contract on, get locked up in a wallet basically on Ethereum. Obviously, it can't. That's what it is, but it's not strictly a burn address. It's more like locked up, but no backsies.
No backsies. And the second metric that I'd be interested in is the participation rate, as you mentioned.
That's going to be interesting, yeah.
When D-Gods moved, I believe they had over 70% of people participate in the first 24 hours, which is highly impressive.
It's impossible, though. We've talked about that before. It's totally manipulate. I mean, I'm just calling Frank out on it, man. That is the team owning all those tokens, man, period. There's no way you can convince me that 70% of any community in the entire NFT space or the entire world, 70% of any group like that will move. It's just doesn't happen.
Speaking of provenance, I mean, we've seen this situation a handful of time over the last 2 years in the historical community, trying to get people to wrap their old assets, right, to put it into the new contract. It's right. It's
literally impossible.
It never works. And even with the Emblem, using Emblem as an example, when even when Bitcoin punks pops up, or Bitcoin apes, or stamp punks, or Ethereum punks, or whatever it is, trying to get those assets from their chain into a vault, we generally tend to peak around 40 or 50%. And that's at maximum, right?
And you know what? That's with one huge motivator.
Yeah.
Money.
Yeah.
Meaning, that is okay. Let's get the Mooncats in there because Mooncats are now at 1 ETH, and everybody's aping in to get their Mooncat wrapped because you can get an ETH for it, right? But without the money motivation, I mean, I would be stunned if they're able to get 40%. That would be stunning. The thing that would really move the needle would be if, hey, there's a bull run happening and ordinals are popping. Then it makes sense, right? Then on-chain monkey holders are like, oh, let me move it over and take advantage of this liquidity on Bitcoin. That makes sense, but right now with no liquidity on ordinals, if I would if I was advising Danny, I'd be like, just wait, man, pump the brakes, wait until bull runs come, and then open that bridge up.
Yeah, I've been learning that with Emblem as well. Is the right way to release a product is alongside a project, but it also needs to be inside the momentum upswing. Because when we launched BRC20 on the downswing, that went horrific.
Exactly, dude.
To say the least. I mean, a lot of attention, but not as much participation on chain as you'd like. And then the third thing that I'm looking at in this is the value transfer. Right now, on-chain monkeys is sitting around an ETH. So once they move over, is that going to move over to 0.07 Bitcoin in value? Is the number going to go up, or is the number going to go down? When you look at D-Gods, the number went up. It spiked about 20%, I think, from what I was doing research for this specific topic. And when D-Gods moved over, they were around 7 ETH, and then they pumped up to 10 ETH, and now they're sitting around 3 or 4. Right. So you get that initial pump. It's almost like an IPO. When a company IPOs, they pump in immediately, and then it just goes down immediately right afterwards.
I mean, the best strategy, if I was, advising somebody, would be be first, you know. But yeah, because you do get that pump at the beginning. We'll see how he rolls it out. I mean, I think it's a ways away. But it was a big announcement, obviously. That I mean, I think that $1 million that $1 million number was put out there to grab eyes and attention. Because yeah, we know it's going to be far, far less than that.
Yeah, I was like, what? But in other,
that's like if all 10,000 move, right? I mean, that's literally what it is.
Yeah, and to close that off, I mean, even from like moving stuff, Mooncats is 25,440, and they've been stuck at 19,000 for over a year now. Like they've gone from 19,000 to I think 19,600 in the last year. So there's just a plateau that you hit, and it's really tough to get other people to move it. Because also some people just don't want to, right? Some people need participation. But, in other Bitcoin news, I don't know what conference you're doing right now, but we woke up to 2 different things, which kind of caught my attention. So first is the Layer 1 Foundation, which was announced, which I believe is running by Domo, who's the creator of BRC20. So we're working on the adoption of meta protocols on Bitcoin through transparent disclosure and development. Let's work together to make Bitcoin fun again. So I guess it's just a cohort of all these different meta protocols on Bitcoin. So this would be like Counterparty, Stamps, BRC20, Bitmap, inscriptions, right? Whatever other GBRC 721, all these other ones that pop up. They're going to create a cohort, which to me makes some sense. Bitcoin doesn't have smart contracts. And Adam, we've talked about this a lot, how Bitcoin is heavily influenced by social consensus and social coordination. And then after the social consensus is made, then it turns into technical implementation. Whereas Ethereum is the complete opposite, where you start with smart contracts. So you start with the technical component, and then you try to round up and get social consensus around it. I think that's where you see a lot of these like pump and dumps on it. Yep. Bitcoin is the complete opposite, and it's exactly how BIPs work on Bitcoin as well. It's how the forks happen. It's how all the upgrades happen. And it's exactly how the ordinals ecosystem is working out. I think it just comes down to culture and also 14 years of history. What are your first thoughts thinking about this? And then I'm gonna ask Bunzi the same thing right after.
Well, let's hear what Bunzi's got to say about this, man. I bet Bunzi's pumped. What do you think?
Yeah, Bunzi's also a builder of OmniSat, which will probably be joining this foundation. But what's your first thoughts on it, Bunz?
Yeah, I think I've been talking to Domo a bit about it. He's been like working on it for quite a while. I think he realizes that Bitcoin is social consensus at its finest. And there just needs to be a quote unquote group to kind of point the people in the right direction. So, I think it's a cool idea because I know it's coming out of good faith, and he wants the best for BRC20s. And with kind of particular groups, you see a lot of partnerships launching and a lot of people putting their credibility on the line, which I think is kind of how this will work. Because like you look at Ethereum and they have proof of stake, where if you want to run a node, 32 ETH, you fuck around, you lose 32 ETH. But I think what's going to happen on Bitcoin is going to be a lot of social consent, or like proof of like social stake. For example, like if Unisat doesn't provide good data, people are going to stop using their platform, which I think is a pretty even trade-off to some degree. I mean, ideally, you would want everything verifiable with no indent, no third party, and I think that's what they're trying to achieve with the Stacks protocol kind of layer 2 solution, is like building the smart contract on it, kind of claiming that because Stacks uses proof of work or I don't know, Stacks is interesting. It's just like they really leverage proof of work when they're not proof of work, but they do it in like a pretty clever way where people are adopting it. And again, that's interesting. But I don't know. What I love about this state of Bitcoin is you do see a lot of big people collaborating, and I don't know. I really like what he's doing. I think it's going to be helpful. I think it's going to move inscriptions forward. I mean, you look at what made inscriptions what they are and all the fees that the miners are getting. It's because of BRC20s, like significant amount of inscriptions. I don't know the number off the top of my head, but
it's like so ordinals just hit 30 million. I believe 28 point something million of them are BRC20s.
Yeah, see, that's fucking nuts. So I mean, it sucks because it's very clunky, like not efficient a way of using them. But regardless, it brought a lot of adoption. And I've been going through this thesis lately in my head. This will be like the first time I kind of like think it out loud. But you know, as people move towards Bitcoin and adopt it, there's only going to be 21 million, and it's, you know, people are starting to argue that it might not be the currency that we use for transacting, just because it's just going to be too valuable. It's going to be like gold. It's going to be, you know, a bit difficult to use, and people are just going to hold on to it. It's like stack sats, don't spin sats. And I now just involving myself with Bitcoin as much as I have, like, yeah, I don't want to fucking spin Bitcoin. Like, take my US dollars, take my, you know, other shit coins, take those. But I try not to spin my Bitcoin. And that's interesting because if we want it to be a global currency, that's fucking wrecked. Like, that's backwards. So I do think, and there's only 21 million of them, that we can create, you know, I think sats, the BRC20 sats that has the representation of it, because you can put like a lot of value into a BRC20 and just transfer a small amount of sats and still have that same transactional layer. So what I mean by that is I think BRC20s are going to be like a useful way of transacting, while Bitcoin remains like the tried and true what you save and stack. And that's just kind of like what I've been thinking about BRC20s and the longevity of them. Is it's going to be interesting for people to use them within their ecosystems, you know, like On-Chain Monkeys did with, they did like bananas and stuff like that. I think communities are going to start, and protocols like, you know, if someone uses their platform, they're going to reward people in BRC20, because that's just the unfortunate nature of product adoption. Is like, you look at ENS, they did a huge airdrop. You look at what Pawn's doing right now, like the reward mechanism. And I think BRC20s, and we see like OG Games doing it, and they're utilizing it as like a token for their ecosystem / a way to reward and you know, not send people Bitcoin, but a representation of something that could have a lot of value. Does that make sense? Because the main thing that I feel like I'm not communicating well is like, being able to send a lot of money with a small amount of sats is a great thing, rather than just sending a lot of Bitcoin, because people aren't going to do that. They're going to want to hold on to that. So I think having like a second layer of currency, aka BRC20, is going to be pretty interesting. But just the way that they're used is just a little unfortunate, just because, like, I mean, even just building out OmniSat, like putting together how many inscriptions and transfers and like just working with them is pretty horrendous.
Bunzi, you've done a good job pretty much explaining it. I think what you're saying is that, you know, Bitcoin is going to be gold, but you still need to be able to build on top of it. And so reducing it down to the UTXO sat, or set of 10,000 sats, which represents an ordinal because of the padding. This gives people the ability to then go and use it for different types of utilities. Is that right?
Yeah. And just like on that one inscription, you can have like 3,000 domo, or like whatever the ordi, which represents a lot more than that. Like, so I think it's interesting. It's like taking $1 and making it into I don't know. That's a weird analogy because that doesn't work. But yeah, it's a cool way to transfer a lot of currency without transferring a lot of Bitcoin. Therefore, building a quote unquote like layer 1.5 of transacting for natively Bitcoin products. You know, And I think that's really where I think this will head. And I know I'm dunking on BRC20s, but the crazy part about it is like that's where their beauty is. Like their simplicity is insanely valuable, because they're, everyone understands what they have to some degree, and it doesn't overcomplicate things. So I don't know. I'm super interested to see what what a DEX could do for them, what a big project like something like maybe OMB doing a token around theirs, or yeah, I think we saw it on Ethereum. We'll see similar huge spikes when big projects start to get their own native tokens.
Yeah, I think it's kind of inevitable. I have pulled up here the Unisat website shows BRC20s. A crazy stat even. So the top one of the top BRC20s is called SATs. This has 17. This one BRC20 is 17.6 million ordinals or digital artifacts of the 30 million. So you're saying this one BRC20 is literally more than half of all ordinals that exist. It has 31,774 holders, which is nearly double the second place of OXBT. But I think, Bunzi, too, like one of your points you're saying is that, even though, BRC20s are clunky, but just the ordinal space in general, a single ordinal could represent something that's less than one set, or it could be something that's more than one set, or it could just have, or it could have no value at all, right? So you're giving that kind of like meta layer of volatility.
You grew Bitcoin's use case exponentially. Like now, literally someone built that SAT project is Bitcoin times 2 now. Now we have, another 21 million sats, just represented in a different way. Therefore, like Bitcoin can expand at a proof of work concept with because we see a lot of these other chains go up and they run into security issues. They're just regulation, all that stuff. And I feel like this is not an educated, I don't study the government side of this or anything, but my thesis is the cat's out of the bag for Bitcoin. They can't lock it down. They just can't. If they tried, it would just do the reverse. It would just boost it up even more. People would be like, okay, they're shutting it down. That means we need this. And there's enough global recognition and time in the market that Bitcoin will just proceed. But the government can come in and shut down other chains, I believe, quite easily because they're VC backed. And once VCs see that, they're like, fuck, lawyers, this, we're wrecked. But Bitcoin, that's why I think now the proof of work, the slowness of it is just all a necessary evil to really be decentralized, because all these other chains are trying to be faster, but at the risk of not being decentralized. So I think building more currencies on top of it, aka BRC20s, allows it to be extremely useful and not just limited to 21 million Bitcoin. Now it's there's just it's exponential. It's over.
Could be infinite. And to even add on to, I guess, the legitimacy or even the legacy, I guess, depending on where this goes, Alex, which is the bridge for Stacks, announced that they are building, or they're nearing to launch, the decentralized on-chain BRC20 indexer that Domo sits on the board of. So this is in partnership with Domo, OKX, Unisat, Hero, and Best in Slot. So it says the current BRC20 liquidity may be capped by levels of decentralization attainable with the indexers. And so I've pulled up here a chart that talks about this on-chain indexer and how it works. Sol, who is one of the co-founders of Emblem and generally in here, comments, and it's kind of interesting what he says. He says, this is an off-chain federated indexer quorum with settlement stored on-chain. On-chain indexer is it's more of a marketing stunt. Cool to see it happen, though. Obviously directly needed. Adam, what are your thoughts on this?
Well, I mean, Sol's pretty brilliant there. So if he's I would lean into that. I would lean into his analysis of what it actually is. I mean, we've talked about it before. An on-chain indexer may be bordering on impossible,
Possible, yeah.
right? So it is what it is. Do I think BRC20s are the next currency of the world? Probably not. Wasn't that supposed to be Bitcoin? Not to go and do the block size wars again. The reality is we may, as a crypto industry, my feeling is if we really want to be like the currency of the world, something's going to have to be different than what we currently have. I don't know what's going to happen with BRC20s, and I like the opportunities, but we're not seeing what it is yet. I'm blown away. I had no idea that Sats 17 million inscriptions. It's just like, wow.
Yeah, one BRC20 is more than half of all ordinals that exist.
I mean, even if you're paying $1 for each one, still, that's a significant amount of money people are putting into that. That's a lot. So, we'll see what comes of it. Gosh, dang it, man. Just think about it.
It's a crazy, crazy world. But speaking of, kind of innovations and things that have been going on. Sorry, I think my air conditioning is running in the background.
No, we don't.
Can you hear it or no?
Oh,
okay, cool. I think this was on Thursday, we talked about the privacy pools. Do you remember that conversation? We're talking about the introduction that they want to do on Ethereum to kind of have this regulated. Well, Zuko, who is the creator of Zcash and has been working on ZK, zero knowledge proofs, for over a decade now at this point. He was working on cryptocurrencies before Bitcoin even existed. And what I mean by that is like DigiCash and all these ones that I think you did a thread on recently, Adam, about, or a post. He basically came out and said, this is a fucking horrible idea. He said the privacy pool idea is bad for 3 reasons. It's an attempt to comply with the principle of guilty until proven innocent. It doesn't provide privacy for normal users. And Zcash works, and we should learn from it. So a nice little shill at the end there. But it was kind of interesting where he said that this whole idea of the privacy pool that Vitalik, Chain Analysis, Amin, I think there's 2 other co-signers on it, is that this basically is a comply of saying that you're guilty until proven innocent because of the privacy pool stuff. He said that privacy pools is an attempt to provide innocence proofs for compliance in a guilty until proven innocent society. You don't want that. And he goes on to kind of explain things about OFAC and Tornado Cash and privacy. It's a really good thread. It's from September 10th. We'll try to pin it up there for privacy, man. But also on the same kind of different side of the coin, I think Eric and Udi are working on ZK rollups for Bitcoin, which is kind of in the privacy kind of realm. Sovereign rollups, and there's another type of rollup. I forget what the other one's called. What do you think? Privacy.
I love that take, and actually, I hadn't framed it that way in my brain, but that makes total sense. That you're guilty until you prove innocence, and that's well, it's un-American, frankly. I mean, part of one of these great ideas, that America had, and I mean, we often, because we grow up in it, we forget that this idea didn't exist previously. Like this idea that you're actually innocent until they prove you guilty. That's a relatively new idea. Like for all of human history, you were guilty until you proved yourself innocent, right? And I think the way we have it is an idea worth fighting for. And to go back to the old way, and that's what governments are doing with crypto, is you're guilty and you've got to prove your own innocence. It's an idea that I think is worth fighting for. To put simply. And I love how he framed it that way, because that's just reframed it for me.
Yeah, Zuko's he's an OG, man. Whenever he speaks, he doesn't speak that often, maybe just because that's also ZK's, I guess. You have to prove what he's saying or something. Terrible joke there. But if there's anybody who has a really pure fundamental understanding of privacy, it's him. I mean, he's been working on Zcash since I got into the space in 2016, and he was working for it 5-10 years even before that. He's read every every book under the sun when it comes to zero knowledge proofs. And he actually went on a podcast with Kobe and Ledger during the bull run on Up Only, and literally gets on a whiteboard during this interview. And
really? I'll look that.
It's hilarious because he's so old school about it. Like, he doesn't go on podcasts that often, that he literally gets on the whiteboard, he shows the screen, and then starts drawing about how ZKs work and stuff like that. It's absolutely hysterical, but we'll see. I do think the privacy pool thing will probably get pushed through. I mean, if you got Vitalik and Coin Analysis co-signing this, right? I think it's really hard to move. Yeah, Sonny Orvis said he was even walking around in his house. He's a legit OG cypherpunk. Yeah, it was hilarious. It's a hilarious interview. Just because
I'll have to check it out.
He's just like, he just doesn't understand the cultural norm. So he's just like he opens his fridge at one point, and it's kind of funny. So yeah,
you do wonder, like, if Chainalysis is coming out with a privacy proposal, how good could it possibly be? Let's be real. Right.
Yeah, they've been selling everyone's data and on-chain history for.
It's like fool me once, shame on you. Anybody who thinks that this is going to be real, true privacy I think you're fooling yourself. Even if they hoodwinked Vitalik into it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Vitalik's doing the best that he can. I mean, he's kind of down bad at the moment.
I can't imagine. Can you imagine what that poor guy, what his life is like? He's got the weight of the world on his shoulders, man. And you can imagine he must get pulled in every direction all day, every day. And that he still finds time to write like in-depth papers is pretty amazing to me.
It's wild. He's been talking for a few years about how he's trying to move Ethereum past just financial speculation, trying to get into the social media aspects and the privacy and some other things. It's going to take a while to kind of change that narrative and change that culture. But if Vitalik's going to do it by staying weird, right? I guess that's the one way to do it, dude. This guy is an alien lizard man that just is complete genius. But final debate and topic for today. There's no way we could have gone today without talking about what everyone's been talking about, and that is everyone's fun new app called FriendTech. I don't know if you guys are paying attention over the weekend. FriendTech was literally all over the social media. I actually been spending a lot of time on it. I was pretty early to it as well. The FriendTech activity went parabolic, says Luke Martin. Anyone that doubted it last week is scrambling to get on board. The TVL is now over 20 million. As you can see this chart that I pulled up here, it's literally just up to the right. There's maybe two consolidation periods, and it keeps going. And a trend that I've kind of noticed is that during the weekends is when the most activity happens, and then during the weekdays it kind of dwindles. And it's because on Friday is when they're doing the point airdrop. And I think this is what's leading a lot of this speculation, is that they're going to do a coin drop. They're going to do an airdrop based off of this point system, and it's backed by Paradigm. And somebody pulled up I saw a tweet where they went through like the history of Paradigm backed projects, and it was like over 50% of them have done like some sort of coin retroactive reward system. Yep. So this is where I think everyone's really trying to farm this hard. And also Racer, who's the founder, and I think Pancakes Bros, the other one, they're really deep crypto natives. And they have found a way to also cut out all of the bot activity after the first week. So a lot of the DeFi guys are really seeing this as like a pure kind of airdrop speculative possibility, to where it's the simple attacks really don't exist right now. And they found ways to kind of cut a lot of that fluff out. And so you're really starting to see this. I mean, there's a bonding curve, right? This was a crazy stat. I think it was on Friday. The trading volume on FriendTech was more than OpenSea and all ETH NFTs combined. It's like,
well, let's be clear. The ETH volume was only like 9 million, right?
Yeah. So yeah. FriendTech trading volume on Friday was 12 million, and total trading volume on ETH was 9 million, right? So 25, or was that 30% more? It's a crazy stat to talk about. And here's some even more stats that I've pulled up. So they had on Friday 9,000 daily active users. 2,000 of those were new users. Let's see, 12 million in volumes, 92,000 keys were traded, right? So if you think of a key as an NFT, you're saying there was 92,000 transactions. TVL is over 20 million. And as of today, there have been 140,000 unique buyers. And the combined market cap of all keys that currently exist, or at least this was from Saturday, is 57 million, with the top 250 keys combined market cap of 43 million, right? So the 1% is 80% of the
That's the way
entire
it works.
market
Those
cap.
1%ers, the rich get richer. So who's like the top keys are like what? Like Kobe and Pranksy, and like tell me who these guys are.
Yeah, so number one is Racer, which is the creator of the app.
Yep.
Hasaka, if you're familiar with Hasaka, he's kind of like one of the OG traders in the space from like the traditional and derivatives background. I've been following him literally since I got in the space. Guy's a genius. You got Ansem, who's like the NFT degen. Kobe's up there. But the thing that I find interesting is that it's really kind of converging the crypto Twitter community with the NFT Twitter community. It felt like during that last bull run, the NFT community's really been kind of just like in its own little bubble. But on this app, it really feels like the communities are really starting to mesh together. I mean, I just bought keys recently for Charlie Shrem. If you don't know who Charlie Shrem is, this guy is the one who got the Winklevoss twins into Bitcoin. He created the first Bitcoin company. I think it was called BitInstant. He actually went to prison for trying to sell Bitcoin to a Fed. And I went into this app and I was like, whoa, I didn't think this guy is like the.
Were you able to like DM with him?
Yeah, I messaged him.
Awesome.
Yeah. So like how, right? It's really just right now, it exists as just it's a Telegram chat where you could go in and ask questions. So you're buying access, right? It's kind of the next iteration, or you could say more gamified version of token gating, like your Discord channels or Discord chats.
Yep.
I do think that the fees are definitely a little bit too high, and the bonding curve adds a unique dynamic to it. So I pulled up here from Space Pixel, the bonding curve. So there's actually like an equation for it. But if you want to get your value over 0.1 ETH, you need about 40 key holders. And you can also obviously buy your own keys and kind of inflate this. And this is what some people did. Ben.eth, I think, bought like 40 of his own in the beginning, which is not surprising. But this also does put like an artificial cap onto it as well, right? So if you look at this chart here, if you have 400 keys, it goes to 10 ETH, right? And so it's like, okay, how many people after 400 will pay 10 ETH or the equivalent of 15,000 to get into a private chat? So I think they're going to have to probably add some sort of kind of creator tooling, some additional creator tooling to this. Also, for this point airdrop, what are the points going to lead to? It's kind of thing. If you introduce a fungible token to this, what does it mean? But before I pass this off to you, Adam, because you haven't used my invite code yet to hop on him, I'm very offended by this. The speculation right now is that 1 point, because they're airdropping 100 million points. The speculation is that 1 point is equal to 40 cents to $2 per point. And a lot of these guys are getting 10,000 points per week just by trading, and no one knows the real algorithm yet. But Adam, what are your thoughts on Friendtech, and why haven't you used my invite code yet?
My Friendtech, my original, I went with my gut on this one. First I heard of it, I was like, I'm out, not interested. So I'm going to stick with that. So I will not be using your Friendtech code unless all of crypto Twitter moves to Friendtech. I am out. That's my feeling on it. I get it, and I get that it can be fun, and maybe, the smart people. I saw another post where it was like the biggest trader on there has already made like 300 or 400 grand or some crazy.
Yeah. So if you follow CL, which is like the cat account, that's pretty popular. He's generating 200 ETH already.
Bonkers. But you see how that is. I mean, what is it? I mean, it's just, I don't want to. I mean, I could see how to do it, right? You buy your own stuff, you sell it, you wash, trade back and forth. I'm not into that. You know what I mean? So I get it, but I'm just, I'm not into it, man. Do I think this is going to be like the social media app? Unfortunately not,
Yeah, I don't think so.
I do see the value. I do actually see the value of, you being able to jump into a Discord chat with somebody you really like and could never talk to on Twitter because he never answers his DMs. Like, I totally get the value of that.
Yeah, it's tokenizing your DM channel.
Yep.
And if you're a business or a VC or something like that, quickly go pay, $1,000 to go get your pitch in, or to try to get in contact. Makes sense. Is it going to be the primary platform? No. Will it probably be some sort of, VIP ultra exclusive club? And it seems like most channels that I've gone in, I've been kind of just buying keys just to kind of check and see what these different channels are doing. A lot of them are really hangouts. Some people are putting sports picks. Some people are putting calls for going long or short on different types of assets. Some people are giving alpha, which I guess could also be on the edge of insider information. But if it's token,
is there any alpha left in here?
But if they're paying for it, is it actually insider information? I guess is the question.
What happened with the one that they were going to pay their Twitter ad revenue out? Did you hear anything from them?
So that was actually happened on this podcast. That's what you're remembering. Is I proposed it was like the engagement DAO.
No. There was a company.
Oh,
maybe it must have been on a different space or whatever. No, there was. I can't remember. Yeah. They were going to pay out their ad revenue.
It's prone for manipulation. Someone's going to do it. I can't wait for the bull market to happen, because the paid engagement on X.com is just going to be abused horrifically, right? Everyone knows the engagement that you get on a bull post when numbers going up. Now, can you imagine amplifying that by getting paid on these bull posts as well? It's just like, I could already see it now. It's like, X paid me $3,000. What floor am I sweeping? Right? I'm gonna. All those cringe posts are gonna pop back up, and all of the PFP paparazzi is just going to abuse it until everyone hates them again.
Totally, man. Totally. I mean, you already see it. You always see it just with the change in the algorithm on X. Like, we already see that sort of manipulation happening. People are trying to figure out the algorithm. I mean, I talk with he's already left, but Lucas knows a lot about this, where he was telling me how these big accounts, and I'm talking accounts with, 400,000 to 1 million, they're in these kind of groups where they'll retweet and boost their own posts, and all this sort of stuff happens because people are people, man. I mean, it gets hidden behind this kind of layer of X or Instagram or whatever. But people manipulate the hell out of this sort of stuff. We see it. It's kind of top level in crypto. It's easier to track, but this stuff happens on every platform.
Yeah, paid engagement. It's going to be interesting. Sunny Orbit says, going back to the Friend Tech conversation real quick, CL found a way to pre-buy all his keys. It's all his own ETH. He hired a team, figured out a way to front run sniper bots, and bought all the keys. So it's kind of an art project.
Kind of an art project.
Good one. Yeah, it's gonna be interesting. I'm gonna continue dabbling. I'm right now more interested in kind of the point stuff. So I've been kind of playing around, buying stuff, and going into some of these chats to see what's going on. Yep. Nothing too crazy, but it's in crypto. It's good to be early, and also just 20 million TVL is still so small. And it's on Base, right? It's on Coinbase's layer 2. So who really knows what can happen? Is it going to be the de facto platform? No, I don't think so. But is it a cool token gated VIP option? Yeah. I personally don't think crypto Twitter is ever going to leave Twitter. It's so integrated in the community. It's going to be really hard to move to that until things like Farcaster and whatever these other ones are, kind of take off. Will be interesting to see. So going on an hour and a half, we're down of a day one. Bunzy, man, give us a little update. What's going on with some OmniStat stuff before we close it out? Give us some alpha.
Yeah, man. I mean, Hath and I have been working really long hours on it, and it's getting really close. We got the notary set up. So what that means is essentially how the liquidity pools will operate. And we're inscribing on behalf of the notary and the trader. So essentially, we're doing some sophisticated math of like basically, if you come with X amount of transfers, we'll map through your wallet, get the closest amount, and if you need to make another transfer, or if you want to do one really quick, we'll let you know what kind of swap you can do immediately. But yeah, we should. I mean, Unisat stated that they're going to have a swap. They didn't say DEX, so I'm curious what they mean. But they said it's going to be announced at Ordinal Summit. So I've just been nonstop because, like you said, Adam, like I don't always agree with this statement, but I do think there's a lot of value. Is like being first isn't best, but being first in crypto does get a lot of liquidity to potentially continue. What I mean by that is, yes, in typical SaaS products, you could follow up a first idea with a better one that's just everything's better about it. But in crypto, you're really rewarded for being first.
Yep.
So with that thesis, I just haven't really slept. And just been really, really trying to push because yeah, dude, Jake, after this, we'll have to show you because we're swapping, baby. We're getting quotes from, if you want to go from like Pepe to Bullet, or like we can go from Jake to, and then it will take floor price from all the marketplaces, find the average, and you could essentially, we're swapping. We're just now trying to make it as seamless as possible. And once we do that, we'll then sort out how fees will be distributed to liquidity providers. And then, yeah, we're like rounding the corner, which is really exciting. But now with Unisat, I'm just curious. But I mean, with H putting together and what he's been able to do with Pawn is with the reward mechanisms, I'm still just super bullish on it, just ripping. So
me too, man. I'm really excited. It's been almost 5 months now in the making since we all met up in Vegas. Maybe one day I'll be able to release that podcast. If you ever show off that shiny mullet. What one thing, so Sean Rida in the chat says, are all Pepes in the new vault verified and ready for purchase? Yes. Every curated collection is verified already. So if it's Pepe curated or Spells of Genesis curated, whatever it is, the assets have to be 1-to-1. So that means that it is verified. Yes, we Adam and I do understand, and we're working with the dev team, which is going to have to come out a little bit later. A lot of the users that used Emblem Vault over the last 2.5 years are used to all kinds of different rugs and scams, and so you have to verify all of your assets. But in the curated collections, how it's built, the vaults have to be 1-to-1, but we are going to build a secondary verification tool to where you just pop in the token ID and it shows you all of the deposit addresses associated with that ERC 1155. We talked about a little bit earlier, ERC 1155s, what we're doing is serializing them, which our dev team says is, a feat within itself. So just give us some time and we'll give everyone in the community that secondary verification tool. But for now, just know that all the vaults are 1-to-1 backed in the Pepe collection, so they are safe to go. So
yes, but always feel free to reach out. But all the curated collections are verified.
Yep. Yeah. Any issues ever, just open a support ticket in the chat. We're pretty active in there, and we'll get
certainly before you buy something over 10 ETH. Definitely reach out.
When some people reach out about Nakamoto cards and the Ric Flair Pepe, that's there for like 92 ETH. It's a 1 of 3. Everyone was like, "What the fuck? How is this real?" And I was like, "I don't know, man. People want it on ETH. They want the exposure, right? Not outside of, even if it sells." They get that like a marketing value, it brings attention to their wallet, and then people are going to start looking through their wallet to see what else they got over there. So, there's a lot of different reasons to get that stuff vaulted on Ethereum. But all right, we'll see you guys tomorrow, same time, 11:30 a.m. Eastern time to 1 p.m. Eastern time. We'll see you guys tomorrow.
Thanks, guys.